As the political and legal walls close in on their fascistic cult leader, Donald Trump, the radical elements of the Republican Party are desperate, are thirsty to try to impeach President Biden. But before we unpack all that, if you haven't yet, please hit that like, subscribe, and the alert bell. Maybe check out my Patreon. I'd appreciate the support. So listen, Republicans have been desperate. Well, some Republicans have been desperate to impeach President Biden since, I think, days, maybe even the same day that he was inaugurated, right? There have been, by my count, 14 or 15 documented attempts to file articles of impeachment against the president, most of which have been filed by Marjorie Trader Greene. But 15 attempts in under 3 years, right? They are desperate to get this guy. As far as they're concerned, it's retaliation. If you impeach a Republican for legitimate reasons, then that justifies to Republicans any attempt to impeach a Democratic president, even if the reasons are not legitimate or not as legitimate, right? It's this weird juvenile, turnabout is fair play, even if the facts between the two presidents are substantively different. That doesn't matter to them. It's almost like if you go after a criminal, they feel like they're entitled to go after an innocent because you went after somebody, therefore we're entitled to go after somebody. And sure, maybe there are substantive differences. Maybe one actually did really bad things that merit you going after them, but that doesn't matter. It's almost like this weird sort of juvenile cosmic balance sort of thing. I have no idea. But anyway, certain members of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives and the Freedom Caucus are desperate to get Biden. They're basically throwing everything at the wall to try to justify it, most of which obviously pertains to Hunter Biden. So I want to play some clips here. This is Andy Ogles, who I think also filed a motion against President Biden. It was either last Congress or one of the first in this Congress. But he makes the case that not only should they go for an impeachment inquiry, they should just go ahead with a full impeachment vote.
But again, this is why we've got to move forward. There's no point in delaying. The evidence is there. Look, Jim Jordan's done a fantastic job. Comer's done a fantastic job.
Comer and Jordan have done such a fantastic job. They're getting called out left, right, and center by Fox News of all places. Steve Doocy and others and Maria Bartiromo and others are like, okay, well, where's the proof, guys? You've been hyping this up. You've been talking about the evidence of the Biden family corruption. Okay, well, where's your evidence against Joe Biden? Well, we kind of hope that, listen, we're trending in that direction. We're getting closer. So that's pure cope from Andy Ogles right there.
Evidence is there. They've got the bank accounts. We've got witnesses. Let's go. Let's show the American people what's happening. And keep in mind
again, what evidence? There is no evidence of any sort of illicit financial transaction against Joe Biden. So here's the funny thing. Republicans are essentially trying to make the case, listen, if we can intuit or suppose that Hunter Biden was the recipient of illicit financial transactions, by law of transitive moral property, that means that Joe Biden is guilty of whatever we think Hunter Biden is guilty of. It's so profoundly pathetic, right? That they have no direct evidence suggesting that Joe Biden committed a crime. They should just come out and say it, which, by the way, whether we like it or not, impeachment is not a criminal offense, right? You are impeached for high crimes and misdemeanors. That's not an actual legal statute. It's a political term. It's an act of, when basically the legislature thinks that you are either politically incompetent or politically corrupt, even if it's not at the level of an actual criminal offense. But they're trying to make the case that Joe Biden committed crimes, actual crimes. Okay, well, where's your proof? Well, Hunter Biden, right? Because Hunter and Joe Biden apparently are the same person.
The first votes for president are going to be January 15th. I mean, there's just a few months away, and it's too much of a delay. We've got to move forward. And like I said, I'm ready to pull the trigger on privilege motion. I hope we're going to see a timeline laid out very quickly in the next few weeks. But the American people deserve an impeachment of Joe Biden.
So right there, listen to what he says. This is political consideration. People talk about the weaponization of processes. Andy Ogles is making the case, listen, we have to skip the inquiry because the election is coming up. He wants to try to hurt Joe Biden politically in terms of the election, and he's willing to get ahead of the facts to do so, right? So now we have Marjorie Trader Greene and Byron being interviewed by Maria Bartiromo, and again, this pertains to the subject of impeachment. Let's hear what they have to say.
Greene, same question for you. Do you feel you have enough votes in the membership to actually impeach Joe Biden?
I don't think we're quite there yet, Maria. just to be honest with you, but I hope that the amount of overwhelming evidence that has come out and continues to pour out will convince those members that are still on the fence. And Maria.
So, I mean, kudos to Marjorie Taylor Greene for admitting, yeah, we don't have the votes, which of course they don't, right? Because all you need is a simple majority in the House of Representatives to impeach, but then to convict, you have to get 2/3 majority in the Senate. So the House impeaches, the trial is conducted in the Senate, simple majority in the House, 2/3 majority in the Senate. They do not have the votes in the Senate. They absolutely don't. Not only is the majority in the Senate controlled by Democrats and their caucus, I don't think a majority of Republicans in the Senate would try to convict Joe Biden of impeachment, even if they really want to, or even if they think elements of their base do. And even in the House, right, where all you need is a simple majority, there are like 10 or 11 or 12, maybe 18, I can't remember but it's in the teens, of Republican representatives who are in Biden districts. And you don't think that Biden voters will punish them? Like, listen, if you're going to impeach the guy that we voted for president, you better damn be sure to bring compelling evidence. And these Republicans recognize that evidence isn't there. You may have enough evidence to morally impugn Hunter Biden, but Hunter Biden is not being impeached. Hunter Biden is not an office holder. So the idea that Hunter Biden sucks, therefore Joe Biden committed an offense worthy of impeachment, the logic isn't there. But again, they appeal vaguely to the overwhelming amount of evidence, but they won't cite exactly what that evidence is because it doesn't exist.
To be honest with you, I'm so thankful you're covering this issue because it's been a full blackout from the mainstream media. And these members that still aren't quite there to be able to vote for an inquiry need to hear from their people back home in their districts. And that's why it's so important to let the American people know what's going on. Because here's the deal. When we have proof, overwhelming proof like we do now, that the President of the United States has lied repeatedly to the American people,
that's hilarious coming from one of Donald Trump's primary cultists. When Donald Trump was the president of the United States, lying, I think, 30,000 documented lies in his 4 years in office, an infinitely more prolific and pathological liar than Joe Biden. You all didn't care. But what they're basically saying is, listen, Joe Biden said during the campaign trail that he had nothing to do with Hunter's business, which as far as we know is true. But what they're hanging their hat on is, listen, Joe Biden spoke to people who did business with Hunter Biden. Now, did he talk about their business? No, but we don't need to prove that. All we need to prove, according to Republicans, is that he literally said words to people who had some sort of financial relationship with Hunter Biden. That is the proof that she's talking about. See, he spoke to a person who had some sort of financial, fiduciary, commercial tie to Hunter Biden. Therefore, he shouldn't be president. It's pathetic.
That is exactly the evidence we need and that has been used in the past to open an impeachment inquiry. And a vote for an inquiry is not a vote for impeachment, but what it does is it allows Congress to have more power behind our subpoenas and move into an investigation revealing more evidence to see if articles of impeachment need to be considered. And I fully believe that that is exactly what Congress should start doing.
So that's where they are. All the stuff going on with Donald Trump, this is a distraction. They're trying to create a false equivalence or muddy the waters. They're trying to make the case that Joe Biden is not morally and ethically superior by far to Donald Trump, even though the facts show that he is. Whatever Joe Biden's faults may be, and nobody here is saying that he's a paragon of moral virtue, he is infinitely better as a person, as a president, as a father than Donald Trump. But they want you all to believe that even if Joe Biden's not worse, that they're kind of on a comparable footing, so it will depress voter turnout for Joe Biden and allow people to basically justify a vote for Donald Trump. But they may eventually get the votes for an impeachment, but this thing will die an ugly death in the Senate. And if they do move forward with this, I do hope that the voters in those Biden districts, which have Republican representatives, punish the Republican Party brutally, politically, during the next election cycle. So we'll see what happens.